So in the last video, we tested out the drivetrain, we moved it around a little bit. So now the next step is to strip as much as we're going to strip off of here and recondition the frame. So hopefully that's what this video will be about. So basically I'm just gonna strip everything off of here. I'm gonna junk this cab. We're gonna rip everything salvageable off of this cab. We're gonna need everything right down to the windshield. And a lot of these parts are still good, so I mean, let's strip off as much as we can and see what we can save. I want to note, this is not a high-dollar budget project. None of my projects ever are. So that's one of the reasons we need to save everything we possibly can on this, because I am going to recondition and reuse whatever I can. I would rather not buy new things because, well, I don't have the money to buy new things. So we're going to take everything off of here, including things that I may or may not use, like these grip handles. I may actually reuse these because it is still going to be a lifted truck. And, you know, I'm getting older. I'm not getting any younger. Guys and gals, I know I've said this 1,000 times, but for goodness sake, stop putting the window clips on backwards. See these two little ridges up here? If you put the clip on with the horseshoe this way, you can't take it off easy by pressing on it because the horseshoe will hit these clips. It's made to go in with the horseshoe facing this way, with the open end of the horseshoe on these clips. So that way you can just stick something in and spread the clips that way and pull it off. You push it in here, you can't spread the clips because the clip hits these raised sections. Put them on right. I don't know, that clip went flying. I don't know where it went, but I had to pry it off, you know, because I had to come in here and that never works right. So don't do that. Stop it. Enough talk, let's get to it. Look at this, an intact glove box hinge. Well, we're definitely keeping this one. These inserts are like $60 or something, so I mean, this is a good glove compartment. Well, I've stripped out everything. I cut out the central hump because I'm just going to lift this cab straight up off of here, and the new cab I'm going to put a bolt-on hump in. But I think I stripped pretty much everything usable out of here. The choke cable, I don't know if you can see it, not the choke cable, the stop cable has a real rusted section right in there. I don't know if you can see it. And it provides a little bit of resistance. Those are cheap. I'm probably just going to replace that. I'm not even going to worry too much about that. I will probably yet take this section out because I am going to take the windshield out, but not till after I pull the cab. And then that's pretty much everything I'm going to salvage from this, other than of course I'm going to salvage the door. But again, I'm going to pull the cab off. I may, well, no, I can say I may try to salvage the roof section, but even that, yeah, this thing doesn't have a dome light in it. So that wiring harness I was thinking about that last night after I came in and pulled the harness out, and well, it didn't have a dome light, so it doesn't have door switches either. So I guess I'll either have to splice them into the harness or add them separately. That's fine, I can do that. It's a very simple circuit and it's run off the battery, so you just run it off its own fuse or whatever. But Don't know even much of this metal. I mean, the interior would be salvageable, but that never really goes bad, so why would I need it? This back panel, I don't know. That's about the only section, and probably up here around the front of the roof, if I ever needed to patch a square body. I may just zip this off and save that once I have this off. But again, I'm not going to strip that off right now till I have it off the truck. Right now the priority is cleaning up the frame and drivetrain. So what we have left are the 4 mount bolts, and then there's nothing else holding this on. I did pull everything off the firewall, all the wires, and yeah, so well guys, this is what happens to your cab if you let it sit for 30 years in the mud. So, you know, be aware. You can't just park it and think you're going to come back to it in 30 years and start it up and drive it away. It doesn't happen. I'm looking at this, and he did some patching. He'd already done some patching on the floor. I guess that's fiberglass or something like that. He put this flat plate in the middle to cover up the hump, I guess because he put his wooden center console box in there, and I guess he just wanted it flat. That's a good body shim. Keep that. So 4 mount bolts, let's do that. So as far as rigging on this, whenever you're doing a lift of this kind, where you're not lifting from the center, it's a little tricky. Obviously, I mean, I'm just stating the obvious here, but if you secure everything and you go to lift, your pivot point is back here, so it's going to lift at an angle like that. I think we'll be okay because they're just pins that go down through the holes in the frame, and it's okay if they have a little bit of leeway there to come out. So I think what I'm going to do is hook from the 4 corners here. If I could lift from the middle, I'd probably just run a strap around the roof of the cab because I don't care about it, but I'm going to find secure lift points. It's going to be it's going to be a little bit harder on this side, but things like this door striker, I mean, this cab, it weighs a good bit, but it's also had significant weight reduction. It still has the glass in it, so it has some weight, and we have to be a little careful with it. We don't want it twisting too much and bending and breaking the glass or anything, because I still need this windshield. We may be able to lift from the strikers. This corner is going to be a little bit more difficult. There's some holes in the frame like this bolt point that might be strong enough at this point to lift from. Over here it's fairly cut and dried. There's plenty of places to lift from. Probably lift from the door hinges and the striker. And hopefully that'll do the trick. So let's rig this. Well, now we can see this drivetrain in all its glory. Didn't bother hooking up the reverse switch, or I guess one of these is reverse and one is neutral safety. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. Since I have it all exposed, I might as well check them, and if they're bad, replace them and take care of all that. Looks like I should probably replace the rear transfer case seal. Probably got a little bit of leakage there. Probably replace whatever seals or O-rings are in there. I think I'm gonna need a new speedometer cable anyway, because this is, yeah, the tack cable, the end of the tack cable was off too, and that's probably why the tack wasn't working right. So I'm gonna have to come up with a different solution for that too. You can see the tack drive right there. So now you can see the clutch linkage. Well, it's working, so I don't know. It is an adjustable linkage. Got that adjustable pin there. So this is clearly the proper bell housing adapter for this engine, or bell housing, and this is proper GM adapter. I'm gonna at some point get those numbers off of there so that I have all the part numbers handy on this engine. Goodness, so if that freeze plug ever goes, you got to pull the whole engine or the cab to get to it. That's good to know. Yeah, so I'm also going to redo the exhaust here at some point. And just ran it against the cross member. That's not a good thing, because as the engine vibrates, it's, I don't like that. I should have got more height there. At the very least, run a little jog up over there. That's not good. I wonder if I can tighten up that elbow down there or something. I don't know. That's going to be hard to get to, but we'll have to look at that. I don't know what transfer case this is. I'm sure a lot of people could tell just by looking at it. Oh, we run into something. Just the amount of dirt daubers that accumulates over 30 years is just absolutely incredible. So these are plastic lines on the air tank. I believe you put copper lines on the vacuum tank over here. These are all copper, flexible copper. I don't know why you didn't run copper for both if he was running any copper at all. Doesn't make much sense, but okay. Okay, so the next stage here is I'm gonna strip off the wiring harness and all of the extra lines that are not necessary to run this for now, and they'll all be reinstalled and taken care of later. But for cleaning purposes, we're just gonna strip all that back, and then we'll add whatever we need on as we need it. My tractor doesn't quite lift high enough to clear the shifter, so when we put this back in, I thought for sure I could. Well, I did when I tightened the straps, but we'll probably pull the shifter out when we put that back in. I should have just pulled the shifter, but I didn't. Next step is to remove extra wiring harness and stuff, and then we can pull this over to the, the cleaning area, and we'll give it a little bit of a clean. Okay, I've removed basically the entire wiring harness except for the fuel sender here, and just the stub out of the starter and glow plugs, just a few little wires like that. That way I know where they go. And anyway, the main harness I pulled off. I think this is as far right now as we're going to strip the truck down. So what do we have here? Well, everything's looking pretty good. This is a 90-degree converter for your speedometer cable, but I don't know also if it has additionally a gear reduction in there. I need to go over this again with the pressure washer. Still some gunk on there in the back of the transfer case. More cleaning. Yeah, looking pretty good. There's an additional plug up here on top of this tank, but there is the drain down there on the bottom and the access port in the back. Over here, no drain on this tank. Again, I gotta get in there a little better. Well, that was the first round. Get all the gunk off, and now we're gonna do another round, and then we'll see, let you know where we're at. Just found the tag for the transfer case down here. I don't know if it's gonna be readable. Looks like a 205 and 5 21 something 96 there, 8. I'm guessing it's a serial number, 3987901 maybe. That looks like all that's stamped on that tag. So that probably means it's an MP205. Shifters are much the worse for wear. I should probably get them re-chromed or something, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to sand them down and paint them. Again, this is not a high budget build. So yeah, this is probably the point in the program where your ordinary YouTuber slash normal person would get out tables full of parts donated by sponsors or expensive things they bought themselves and say, okay, now we're going to put this thing back together, and just start slapping on new parts, you know, out of boxes and fancy packages and so forth. And well, not only do I not have any sponsors, but I don't have any money. So we are going to do bare bones on this. This is going to be a functional, decent looking revival here. So I'm going to strip heavy rust areas on the frame, get all the loose rust off. Then I'm going to put rust treatment on, and then I'm going to paint areas like this that are good where the paint didn't come off. You know, we're just going to paint over top of that. Again, it's a frame. If the paint flakes off later or something, there's still paint underneath. And well, I don't care so much about that. My main concern is the rusty areas like this, or although it's still structurally intact, I would like to prevent further degradation. So we're going to knock that down with wire brushes, treat that up really good. We're going to knock off this exhaust, and I'm going to put some kind of better exhaust on this, but this is where the muffler needs to be, in here somewhere, because there's not really much room up there. I'm gonna have to get a muffler or something. I may just go down to Tractor Supply or something and get a 3-inch or whatever this is, tractor muffler, stick it in line. So it looks like we got an SM465, an NP205, and an SE number 3 or 2 bell housing that's made by somebody who I'm not sure yet, that I want to look up because I want to know. I'm just curious. But it's a very well put together drivetrain here. I mean, the clutch throw is adjustable. Again, got to fix that spring there maybe, but oh, there, fixed. Just enough to keep that together there. When I put this back together, I may alter it a little bit so that the cab is easier to remove, because I'm feeling like anytime you need to service this thing, it would be real handy to just lift the cab off of here. What I'd really like is one of those fiberglass front ends that folds forward and then it's one piece and you can easily remove it or tilt it up for servicing. But again, lots of money I don't have. If I had lots of money, I would put one of those on this truck, because you need to be able to get to everything, but that's a luxury I can't afford. So I think, like I said, I'm just going to make everything maybe a little easier to service. I don't know. I mean, it's going to have, the new one is going to have a removable bell housing hump cover. So that'll make it a little bit easier. But other than that, yeah, I mean, this engine is actually pretty nice and clean. I feel like it wasn't originally painted, and he just kind of threw it in here without painting it. I don't know. Have to get a vent for this and then run the vent line somewhere that's better than that. And we are going to go through and grease everything while we have nice easy access. The lift kit on here, it appears that it's a Skyjacker lift based off of the fact that it says Skyjacker. It's not some hacked together redneck deal. So that's a good sign. It appears it's got a heavy duty track bar, and it's not hacked together. The bushings and everything look really good all over this suspension. So I don't think I'm going to touch that at all. We'll run new wiring for the back and everything. I just pulled all the wiring out. I wasn't going to pull the back wiring out, but you know, it's escalating. And then I wasn't going to pull all the fuel tank wiring out, but I did. You know, we got all these little plugs and everything that I'm just going to convert into one new wire, run up the frame. Well, probably run them up the same side of the frame altogether. They had the fuel line wire run down this frame rail and the light wire harness run down that frame rail. I'm also going to run 2 extra wires in case I ever want to put a trailer harness. I'll run battery power, fused battery power, and a trailer brake line, just in case. You never know. Engine cleaned up pretty good, but it was already pretty clean. I just, you know, gave her a good dousing on a scrub. And the shock boots are surprisingly intact for sitting so long. So I think we got a good starting point here. If these are standard K5 Blazer axles, let me know. I have no idea. I haven't looked them up yet. I think they're Dana axles, maybe. There's that one. That's the rear. That looks like a Dana cover. And then there's this one, which also looks like a Dana cover. I don't know. I could be completely wrong on that. I'll have to look it up or make my life easier. Leave it down there in the comments. And again, if I'm right about this being an NP205, please leave that down in the comments. Is that an NP205? I'm not sure. I don't know anything about new process transfer cases. Four-wheel drive has never been my thing. All right, I think we got a good starting point here. So next step you see, we're gonna start cleaning this up, and I guess I'm just gonna like start from the back and work forward, cleaning and brushing and painting and doing all that boring stuff. I have to fix this break in the frame here, and so what I'm going to do is grind it back a little bit to make a V and then fill it with weld, and I mean that'll be good enough for government work. Grinder and paint makes me the welder I ain't. It looks good from way back here. Today it's just the wire isn't playing right and the feed, and just don't use these wire feed welders. Just don't. Anyway, after much struggling, I have a kind of acceptable joint there. It'll be fine. Good enough for government work. That's the rear. I did replace some hoses there that were cracked. So I need some high heat paint for the drivetrain, and I'll just keep moving this forward. I don't like the way this emergency brake cable's routed. Of course this exhaust won't be here, but still over there it's, I don't know, it's against the exhaust. And although it doesn't seem to have rubbed, you know, maybe that's because it wasn't used or anything like that. How would it lay? It would lay like that. Well, it's tensioned. I don't know. I don't like that, but I don't see many ways around that without completely modifying the exhaust. I don't know. Not sure what I'm going to do there yet. Well, there it is, completely rebuilt. Just lost all the receipts. Well, at this point, you're probably asking yourselves, why didn't he just strip everything off the frame and strip this down and do it the right way and put it back together again? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, This is never going to be a pavement princess, a mall crawler, or a garage queen. This is going to be a driver. It, you know, with the capability it has, it probably, you know, it might end up as a mud truck. And why would you spend all the time to do that when it's just it's going to get dirty, it's going to get, anyway, and you're going to need to clean it off again and go through all that. So I just didn't see the point. Biggest thing is I just wanted to basically strip down what's here, just, you know, on the surface, and get some coating on it. Get it to the point where it's more easily cleanable. When you have a coating on this on top of cast iron and steel and everything, it's much easier to spray it off, whether it be mud or what have you. So a big reason is I don't have the budget, and in the past I have done this the right way, and it's never worth the money, because you'll never ever get your money back, because anybody who's buying this, they're not going to pay extra for you having stripped the frame down and spent hours and hours and hours doing everything, recoating everything and all that. They just you're not going to get your money back. It's just not going to happen. Never, ever, ever. And that's not my intent with this truck. My goal is to either drive it myself or get it into the hands of somebody who can use it. And somebody's burning next door, and it's getting ash all over my new paint already. And see, that's another reason I don't care, because I'm outside, I don't have a fine shop or a garage, and there's no point making it perfect. I mean, there's 10 reasons to not bother making it perfect. Some of these little things, like I am going to take them off probably for other reasons, to either relocate them or, you know, rerun lines or things like that, and they'll get cleaned up then. This is basically all I'm doing to the drivetrain right now. This will make it easier to clean in the future. It'll make it look a tad nicer, which I don't particularly care about. And mainly what I'm hitting here is the stuff that is going to be really, really hard to access later when there's a bed and a cab and, you know, front clip on it. All the underside, if you really wanted to clean and prep and paint that, that's fairly easy to do. You can just raise it up in the air, crawl under there, and strip it down and clean it. This stuff is a lot harder to get to later, and it's exposed now, so I'm giving that a real good strip and coating, as you saw. I don't think I noted it, but this brush on paint that I was putting on here is high heat paint. It's something like 1,000-degree paint. It's a special mix for this kind of thing, and that's why I did paint the exhaust manifold. I have done that before. The exhaust manifolds obviously get really hot, and, you know, the sides of the engine and stuff, and I don't know how long it'll stay. I have actually done it relatively successfully and had high heat paint work for a long period of time. I didn't do a great deal of prep work, and again, I'm not concerned about this, you know, being perfect. We want it better. That's what I'm shooting for, better. I did tighten the alternator belt. Well, I tightened the alternator. This is a 2-belt system, and this belt is still tremendously loose because they're not matched anymore. One is a little stretched and off, and right now I'm not going to worry about that. Again, that can always be changed later. Right now our goal is to get this back together and get everything functioning and tested and assembled the way we want it, and then we can go back and fine-tune things and replace little things like that, you know, can be done later. So we're going to replace this reverse switch. I tested it, it's bad. This, I guess, is the neutral switch, but this is reverse. All right, there's our new one. Which I also tested because I'm suspicious of new things these days, and it is good. There's reverse. That means we should get contact here. And we do. If I take it out of reverse, you get no contact. Correct. Well, neutral switch isn't any good, but I don't care. A lot of these transmissions don't even have that, so maybe this is a newer transmission. I didn't look up any of the serial numbers or anything, but so I am going to run the wiring pigtail off of that before I put the cab on, just because it'll be easier. And then I'll run the wires for the rear lights back along the frame before I put the cab on, so I'll have to do less crawling around. And another thing I'm going to do is start looking at this exhaust. I believe I'm going to cut it here in front of the Y, and then I'll either put the muffler right on or I'll put on another stretch and then the muffler. And again, I'm going to do that before I put the cab on, because this is right under the seat here, and well, it's not quite as convenient to get to as it could be. So I need to replace the speedometer cable, because this is, well, I don't know, it's not, this is supposed to be crimped onto here and it's not, and I don't feel like re-crimping it and worrying about that. But I'm not sure if I'm going to go with a digital speedometer yet. At any rate, I can easily enough crawl under here and access this and screw on whatever I need to get to that. Or, well, I don't even need the right angle fitting if I do that. The only downside is I'll have to run wires for that later if I choose that method, but so be it. I don't have the funds to dedicate right now to say for sure I'm going to go this way or that way, because I don't know what I'm going to do for the gauges yet. So for now, we're just going to leave that. Let's slice this exhaust off and take the hangers off and that kind of thing. So yes, I am even trying to save the exhaust clamps, because, you know, these things cost money and they're still good. So I managed to save 3 of them. I don't know if I'll need any more. If I need more, I'll try to save more, but you know, that's a couple bucks each that I don't have to spend if I need them. So I'm saving everything I can. This is a low budget project. So I got this muffler on, I don't know, eBay or something. I mean, it came from a place called All Things Manly LLC, so it must be good, right? But in all reality, it was the only 3-inch muffler that I could find cheaply. Just looking at that, I don't know, it doesn't look like 3-inch, but is it 3-inch? It doesn't look like 3-inch. I'm not sure that Mr. Manly can measure. What do we get here? 2.5. 2.5 on one end and 2 3/4 on the other. So I guess Mr. Manly needs to learn how to use a tape measure. Huh. I don't know if I can adapt it down, or I don't care if I have a 3-inch exhaust or not. I just want the muffler to work. Well, let's see what I have. I don't know. Let's see what happens over here. Hold it upright. It might be enough to weld on. I don't know. I don't know, that might work. I'm probably going to weld it anyway, so it's a pretty nice thick exhaust, so I don't know. Which way do I have it going here? I don't know which way is right, but I feel like with the letters pointed this way, it ought to be. I'm not sure. I feel about it this direction. Different. Alright. Well, I mean, it's definitely not going to be right, but it'll work, and it's what I have, so it's what we're putting on. So I'm gonna prep that and then, you know, zip them together. I don't know how I'm gonna run the exhaust. I was thinking I'd run it out here kind of in front of the tire. As long as it's behind the cab, it's generally okay. The problem is you'll hear that exhaust note, the driver's side. I don't know if that's a problem, but I could take it straight out the back. I might have to jog down a little bit to get under the gas tank. I don't know. I mean, it'd be nice to just straight pipe it right out the back. I don't know. Let's do some of this prep work and get this cleaned up. Alright, that's a new dawn, it's a new day. My camera went a bit dead when I was doing the exhaust, but what we've got is we've got the exhaust that was existing welded onto this muffler I got. And then I took one of the straight side stacks, which is also a muffler. I should have showed down inside, but I think my camera was dead at that point. But it's just like one of those fiberglass through mufflers, which is basically just, you know, a glass pack and doesn't do a whole lot. So anyway, I'm just using it as a straight pipe to the back. It shouldn't make any difference using it horizontally. You know, you can use glass packs horizontally, and even if you can't, I don't care, because this is what we're doing. And then I just borrowed one of the elbows to bring it out here. I am not finishing the tip until I find out. I don't remember where the bedside, I don't want it to stick out too far and look ridiculous. I can add length or I can take away based off of adjustment. Where's my various pieces over here? I can add one of these tips if I want to, you know, give it a decorative, you know, downturn look if I want. And well, I can worry about that later very easily. The main thing is to get the main part of the chassis done so we can get the cab back on here. What's next? I want to run the wiring that goes under the cab, which is all the wiring for the back of the truck. So I'm going to run that harness into the frame rail, and then I won't have to lay on my back and do it. I can do it from up here. And I'm going to change this seal on the NP205, the output seal. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a little bit chewed up and it doesn't seal so great anymore. I didn't order a seal for the front drive shaft, and I probably should have, but you can't really see the seal, so I don't know what it looks like. It didn't look like it was leaking really bad, and I can do that later from under the truck if I need to. So I mean, I could do that one too, but I'm going to do it now because I know for 100% it's leaking. What else before we put the cab on? I think that might be it, and then we'll put the cab on. Things like the, I did pull off the emergency brake cable because it was a little shredded, and the way they had it routed over the exhaust was weird. When I have the new cable, I'll figure that out, and I'm not going to worry too much about it right now because, well, brakes are optional anyway. So that is very easy to do later because it's very accessible. That's why I'm not going to worry about it right now. So then we'll be ready to put the cab back on the chassis and hopefully wrap this video up that is getting extremely long, even with all the junk I've cut out of it. So I have in my inventory a spare trailer wire harness. I thought it was the 4 put together into one, but it's actually the 2 separate ones. Anyway, that'll help me keep the colors straight without running individual wire runs. And then I'm going to run fuel tank wire. I'm going to make that green. Trailer brake wire blue because it's standard. Blue is conventional to run for that. And then I'm going to make the reverse lights white. Well, just because that's what I have. And I'm going to run auxiliary power in red, and that's for if we ever hook up the trailer hitch to the brake controller. I like to have the trailer plug's wired up correctly with auxiliary power, because you need to charge brake batteries and things like that. So you should always have auxiliary power going to your trailer plug if at all possible. So I'm going to run all those wires in one harness, and since I get everything, I'm going to splice in the reverse switch right here. I'm going to try to run it good enough that it doesn't flop down on the exhaust, and we'll just run them right along the frame here like they're supposed to be run, and I'll have all new wiring on this section, well, except for the ground for the fuel tank, but that will be fine. We're going to be testing all this before we put the bed back on, so if there's any issues with the ground or anything, we'll figure it out then. Where's the... I got to find that plug so I can wire in the fuel tank sender, and then we'll have a complete wire harness back here, and then we'll be ready to splice in the lights and everything according to wire colors, which I will again label them. Hopefully my labels will survive, but let's get them run out and tagged together, and then we'll feed them through the frame. Harness is in. I will label these, but we got our lights, we got our future possible brake controller, auxiliary power, and the white is backup lights. So running along the frame rail like the factory does, I spliced into the green wire in my new harness down there. It runs along the frame rail in here, and spliced in the backup lights to our new switch. And we have a little bit of a pigtail here. Now, sometimes the right way to do this would be to like run this red wire all the way to the battery or the fuse block where it's going to go. But number one, I don't know how I'm going to wire it yet, and number two, I want this harness all spliced at one location so it's easily findable, and you can easily disconnect it going forward if you need to. I'll put connectors on all of these, so you'll just be able to pull the connectors, and then that'll just disconnect at one place very easily, and you'll know what it is and where it goes. I would like to note that yes, if anybody is just hovering over the comment keys, just waiting, the correct way to do this is to put wire loom on it, or, you know, put another wrap or something around it. The last guy didn't, and it was fine. I think the factory wraps them in wire, maybe, if you're lucky. Sometimes the factory doesn't even do that. Back in the day, now they probably would. But I'm not going to, because I don't have enough wire loom in inventory to do it, and it's not a critical thing. And it's not hard to look at and repair if anything ever does go bad. And it is tucked inside the frame rail for safety, and behind all of the struts and everything. It would be pretty hard to damage it, but the wire loom makes it easily cleanable and keeps the wire colors there for the future. And well, that's lower on my priority list. I probably would put wire loom on if I had the money, but believe it or not, I have already spent, I think, about $1,000 in parts, just in parts and everything, to get this thing to this point, to get the engine running, the drivetrain working. And it stacks up pretty quickly, and I've said it 1,000 times before. I know probably everyone's getting tired of hearing it, but I don't have a large budget for this project. I want to do it kind of right, but I don't want to go exorbitantly over budget. So this will work, and that's what we're doing for right now. I think now the only thing remaining is this rear transfer case seal. So this is the seal they gave me, and it measures at roughly a 1.85 shaft, except that this yoke going in here, it's like 2.13, which is probably 2.125. So that seal isn't even close to working. Somebody goofed. Anyway, the net result of this is that I do not have the right seal to do this. So we are going to order that seal, and we're just gonna have to do it once the cab is on. So it'll be fine. It'll just be more of a pain. So for right now, we're gonna call this chassis done, except for the little things we're gonna do later. We still haven't done brakes or tires, obviously. We can't do that till I have some kind of brake booster hooked up and we can actually bleed the lines and see what pops and pressurize them and see what cylinders are probably bad in the back and what calipers are bad in the front, and then we can go through and put $1,000 into that and replace everything. That, you know, sounds like fun. So this video is getting really long. I think I'm gonna cut it short here and call this chassis pretty well done until we start putting it all together in the next video. Finally. That'll wrap it up for this video. As always, please like, subscribe, whatever. Helps the channel grow, puts me in a good mood, doesn't cost you anything. And as always, thanks for watching.